There's never a dull moment when it comes to Minnesota sports. Whether it's positive or negative.
The Yankees have swept the Twins.
Minnesota Sports Chat has you covered. Talking nothing but Minnesota sports all year long. It's time now for the soon-to-be award-winning, if only in his own mind, Minnesota Sports Chat with your host, Ross Brendel.
And welcome inside edition number 220, unofficially edition number 220 of the soon-to-be award-winning Minnesota Sports Chat, presented by my friends at Beans Coffee Company. Use the promo code SPORTSCHAT at coffeebybeans.com. You'll save some cash on the best coffee you'll ever put in your mouth. That promo code SPORTSCHAT at coffeebybeans.com. Joining the pod today, he is the voice of the St. Paul Saints. You can hear him all season long on KFAN Plus. Maybe some TV work as well. I'll ask him that here shortly. Mr. Sean Aronson, he joins to help celebrate America's independence on this 4th of July. And what is more American, Sean, than talking baseball?
First of all, Ross, it is always, and I mean always, a pleasure to join you. I'm going to ask this question knowing that you and I are recording this on July the 3rd on a Wednesday afternoon. But I want to make sure of something. We're dropping this on the 4th of July, or are you going to drop this on the 3rd?
Nope. I'm going to be positive. You asked me because you said you're going to drop something big on the pod. So I said I will adhere to your strict standards of waiting until the afternoon of the 4th of July.
Okay. So I've got two big pieces of news.
Okay.
I'm going to drop one that you're the first to know, but by the time this comes out is going to be old news. Okay.
Got it.
You are the first to know this. You are not allowed to tweet this out because I'm not going to be a source for anyone. So this is between you and I.
Okay.
This was not the news that I was talking about yesterday, however.
Okay.
But as of this second at 2:04 p.m. on July the 3rd, Brooks Lee is a major leaguer.
Wow. Okay.
So that is
okay.
That is not the news I was going to drop. I literally found out about 15 minutes ago. So unfortunately, you can later tell everyone you were one of the first to know.
Okay.
But you also cannot send it out because I don't need the Twins getting mad at me that I told you. Sorry, that's the way this works.
Okay, got it. That's fine. Your secret's safe with me.
Okay.
All right.
I would imagine the Twins are going to make this official very, very soon. So.
I would also imagine that means my guy Royce Lewis has headed to the IL.
I would guess that. I don't know. I would only assume so. But yes, that is the big news. Twins fans or people from the Twins listening, don't get mad at me because I'm not breaking anything. It's not out there. You guys still get to release this first, but I'm telling my friend Ross here before everybody else knows so that he can tell everyone later, see, I knew before all of you.
And Sean, I can tell you when he crushed a double on Saturday night at Principal Park in Des Moines, I said it's only a matter of hours before this guy plays Major League Baseball when I watch that double in person. Okay, second item, you're like, now you know who Doogie is, of course. You're basically doing your best Doogie, dropping a bunch of scoops right now on Minnesota Sports Chat.
You want to know something? All these people are going to get mad at me because I didn't tell them before. Doogie's going to get mad.
Of course he is.
My boy Declan's going to get mad at me because I didn't tell him.
Yes, he is. Yep.
But I can't have the Twins ever get mad at me for releasing stuff they don't want released. So, but the second news, and maybe some of those same people will get mad, and this is the reason why I was asking to wait until the 4th to drop this, because I will release this tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock in the morning. And I'm actually happy that this is going to be buried under the Brooks Lee news. But Brooks Lee will not be the only one going to the major leagues. I am getting the call up. I will make my major league debut with the Twins next week.
Awesome.
In Chicago and in San Francisco. So I will be on the radio broadcast. Chris Atterbury's taken a week off, and after 24 years in this business, after 18 years with the St. Paul Saints, after 3.5 years as the voice of the AAA affiliate of the Twins, they've asked me to fill in for Atterbury next week.
Sean, I literally just got the chills for you. There is no better news than that I will hear all day long or probably all week long. You're far too humble. You deserve this so much, and I'm so happy for you. This is awesome, Sean. Congrats.
I appreciate it. And honestly, a lot of thanks goes to the Twins, to Andrew Halverson, the director of broadcasting over there, to Chris Atterbury for thinking of me as he took the week off and recommending me to step in. And it really is. It's a humbling honor. I've known for about 2.5 weeks now, and I've spent the better part of 2.5 weeks doing research on both the White Sox and the Giants. So I hope I come fully prepared and can give Twins fans what they're looking for, what they hope to hear, what they expect. And it's gonna be a fun week. I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be me and Dan Gladden, and I'm excited.
Well, if anybody's heard you call a game before, and I'm assuming a lot of Twins fans have, I think they know they're going to get a well-called and a well-prepared game. And this is also a good time for me to remind people, like I did at the outset, if you're not listening to Saints baseball on the radio, especially, maybe you're a diehard Twins fan, but the Twins are playing. Okay, well, when the Twins go to break, flip over to Sean. When the Saints are playing and the Twins aren't, make sure you hear Sean 96.7 in the Twin Cities for KFAN Plus. And Sean, remind me, are there any TV games this year? I think there are, right?
Yeah. So we do select home games on the CW network. This week, as a matter of fact, we're on Saturday and Sunday on the CW network. So usually it's either a weekday afternoon game, and I think we only have one of those left this year. And then the weekend games, not every weekend game because they've got other programming that they have, but it's either going to be Saturday, Sunday, or both days, or one or the other. So CW, and I'll do the TV at home, even when we're not on CW, we're on cable access. We're also streaming all that. So I just do TV at home, and then on the road, I do radio on the road. So at home, I've got a couple of great guys that flip in and out. One is on the TV with me, and one does radio. So at home, it's one of them that does it. Either Andy Helwig or Steve Linsmeyer. Both have been fantastic. But I do all the road games on my own. Although not next week. You can, if you want to tune into Saints games next week, it'll be both Andy and Steve from Louisville. So.
Well, first off, again, or not first off, just again, Sean, I want to reiterate my congrats to you, because I was actually going to ask you a little bit about off air about, if you were hoping to get a call or maybe try and get one, because Sean, I don't want to, pump up your ego too much, but I think very highly of you. And years ago, listening to you do Saints games was fantastic as an independent team. And when I say years ago, I'm talking 10, 15 years ago. You were great then. You're even better now. So I'm very excited for this opportunity. Can I tell you, and sorry, I think I did bring this up the last time, but did I tell you, you hold one of my favorite moments in broadcasting history in my heart? You have it.
What's that?
It was the day your sister joined you for your 1000th broadcast.
Yeah.
And I think you guys were talking about Kevin Burkhardt, I believe.
Yeah.
And she made some, because I think he had just gotten the Dodgers job at 29. Is that him?
Joe Davis.
Not Burkhardt. Joe Davis. Sorry.
Yeah, Joe Davis. Yeah.
Joe Davis. And she made some comment about, I don't know how she phrased it, but it was basically like, well, what did he have to do to get that job?
Yeah. Joe Davis is pretty darn good.
And that's it. And you're like, well, he's actually really good.
Yeah.
But no, Sean, don't ever knock yourself. I know you really don't, but you're fantastic. So I'm very happy for you. Do you want to talk a little Saints and Twins baseball really quickly before we have some fun? Okay, good deal. So I'm sitting in Des Moines last weekend. I told you I was heading on down to the games with my pops. We watched Saturday and Sunday. I really do like that park. We've talked about it before. Is it CHS Field? Absolutely not. But it's functional. It's nice. It's on water. I like that. I think it's a good place for Twins fans to go check out if you want to see what's happening with your AAA ball club, which, Sean, you kind of already alluded to it. Often features guys that are going to get the call up soon for the first time. Also features guys who have been to the major leagues. Sometimes you'll see guys on rehab assignments. One iCubs fan, I don't like that we call them the iCubs, but I'll stick with it.
Yeah.
told me, boy, this top of the lineup, this is a major league lineup. And he was talking about Wallner, Julian, Brooks Lee, and there's other guys in there. Of course, Camargo when he's healthy. Is this, and I know it's maybe not a fair comparison, not trying to speak slight of the independent ball clubs that you saw, because I loved and adored those teams.
Sure.
Is this from the lineup standpoint, not talking about pitching, from the lineup standpoint, and, again, when this drops, Brooks Lee's no longer there, at least for now, the most talented St. Paul Saints lineup you've seen?
It's pretty darn good. We were an incredible offense a year ago. There's so much evolving in AAA baseball, right? One day you're a juggernaut. The next day, guy's hurt, guy gets called up. I think what people may not realize, Michael Hellman, who I think is a major league type player. I know he's a little bit on the older side, but he's hurt. He's got a hamstring injury. You add a guy like that to this lineup when he was healthy 3 weeks ago, and it made it that much more dangerous. Deshaun Kersey Jr., who's hitting 310 with 10 home runs. He just had his 14-game hit streak snapped last night. He's been tremendous in this lineup. So yeah, it's an excellent lineup. Is it the best? I don't know. At times last year, we had a lineup that I thought, yeah, nobody's ever going to get anybody in this lineup out. But this probably 2 weeks ago when Hellman was healthy and Kersey right before he got hurt was about as good a lineup as we've had. And of course, when Wallner's swinging the bat like he is, Junior Severino, the way he swings the bat, we were deep 1 through about 8. And it's not to say anything of Will Holland, who, again, most Twins fans, you got to be a diehard Twins fan to know Will Holland, even though he's an 8th round pick out of Auburn. But he had struggled in the minors the last 3 years, hadn't hit above like 211 in any year, was hitting 290 this year, showing incredible power, and then fractured his fibula. I think it was the second game in Iowa. So he's not officially done for the year, but pretty close to done for the year. And he was hitting 290 and 6 or 7 home runs, and he can run and play defense. So you add him. So the components are there for us to have the most dangerous 1 through 9 I've ever had. But again, not everybody healthy at the same time or whatever. But right now it's pretty good. Although, again, you lose a guy like Brooks Lee in the lineup, and it definitely hurts.
On Kersey, I'm not sure there's anybody in the organization that I am more happy for, Sean, just from the standpoint of looking at Kersey, and he's a little bit older now. He's on the back half of his 20s, and obviously for him being at AAA, he'd love to get that call up to the big club at some point. And Sean, when you have 10 plus homers and 50 plus RBIs at this point of the season, you're hitting over 300, you got to think that that's a guy who at some point may get the call to the Twins when there is an open spot, or at some point, Sean, I don't ever want to wish this into existence for somebody, but could wind their way onto another roster to get a look. So I'm really happy for the season that he's having. And it's just because it's a lefty and their swings always look slightly better, Sean, but it's just a beautiful, clean swing.
No, it is. The kid's a pure athlete. He can play center field with the best of them. I think he's been rated the best defensive player in the Twins system at least 2 years, if not 3 years. He can go get it. He's a solid all-around player. But you're right. The problem was he dealt with injuries coming out of Utah, dealt with some injuries early in his career, and he finally got fully healthy about a year ago. And you're starting to see what he can do on a consistent basis when he's healthy. But the problem is, you're right, he's on the back half of his 20s, and so all of a sudden you're not a prospect anymore. And, of course, with the Twins, you're a left-hand hitting outfielder, which, again, they have plenty of. If you were a right-handed hitting outfielder, he would have been up weeks ago. But, every organization needs, different things. And maybe, again, I don't know whether he fits into the Twins' plans or not. I hope he does, because I love watching him play. But if not, there are 29 other teams that would be lucky to have Deshaun Kersey Jr.
On the pitching side, I got to see a pretty good outing from Louis Varland this past weekend in Des Moines. I know he struggled for the better part of this year for both the Saints and the Twins, but I'd like to think that he's going to figure that out, and that's more of an aberration than anything. But then there's David Festa, who made his his major league debut for the Twins about a week ago. And I know you got to see an awful lot from him, another kid that the organization's really high on. And who knows? I mean, maybe we'll never see minor league ball again, or maybe he will. That's neither here nor there at this point. But another guy I think Twins fans are excited to see and happy for.
Yeah, look, Festa carved up hitters in this league. I mean, his slider is about as good as any. He's got some giddy up on the fastball, 96, 97. He's a smart kid. He knows how to pitch. And I think he's going to do quite well at the major league level. And I think you saw flashes that in his first outing. And I think as we speak today, he's scheduled to throw today as well. But I think he is going to be inserted into that rotation for many years to come. You talk about Louis. Anytime a guy comes down from the major leagues to AAA, they're always working on something. And for Louis, it was the two-seamer, it was the changeup, and he was working on a lot of things. But look, I don't care if you're working on stuff or not. These guys are competitors, and they hate to see their numbers get inflated or to have a bad outing. And 2 starts ago, as you and I are talking, it was abysmal for him, and I felt bad. I mean, gave up 12 runs, gave up 5 home runs. It was unlike Louis Varland. And so you had to think to yourself, like, he's got to be working on something. Like, this is not Louis Varland that I'm used to seeing. And then he came out in his last start, as you saw, and he started scuffled in the first inning, but he got out of it unscathed. And then the confidence was built after that. And he threw 5 shutout innings. So again, for guys like Louis, when you're coming down here to work on stuff, you're going to work on it, whether you succeed or fail. And that's what they want you to do down here. They don't care about the numbers. That's why organizations will tell you often, don't look at the numbers when a guy goes down, because they're working on stuff. The same thing with Wallner when he got here. He struggled for the first 3-4 weeks before he found his swing. And now he was just named the International League Player of the Month in June.
I think when you look at where some of these guys are at, Sean, I think, boy, let me try and find the right words here. I think what you talked about for Louis at the beginning of your answer, or I'll call it rebuttal there, was I think we always forget about the human element when it comes to professional sports. We think, he's just going to go down to AAA and he's going to figure it out and everything's going to be just fine. But to your point, there is that human side. There is that demotion. There is, I was struggling at the major league level. Will that translate when I get back to AAA? And I think oftentimes we love to poke fun at the game's played on spreadsheets now and through computers. Well, it's not. You're still playing with humans. So you have to factor that part in. And I just think that that's something where I think the Twins do a pretty good job with that. I think they understand that, they have people in their organization, not just robots and computers playing these positions. But I think what you said there is big, and I think that has to be an organizational philosophy and an approach, doesn't it, to how you handle your players and how you handle your people?
Yeah, look, I'm not privy to the conversations that go on between the organization and player X or player Y, but from what I've been able to glean, I think the Twins do an excellent job with their prospects, with their players at the minor league level. And I'm sure they handle them differently at single A versus double A versus AAA. I mean, I spent 4 years in the Florida State League 100 years ago. Of course, that was under a different regime, but I have nothing but kind words to say about the old regime and how they handled things. But I think Derek Falvey, Thad Levine, I think they do a phenomenal job. And I think you're seeing it. They've talked about it on the broadcast. I've talked about it on the broadcast, the number of double-digit prospects that are turning into viable major league, players says a lot about the organization, right? You don't expect to find gold in the 13th round or the 15th round or the 18th round as much as an organization like the Twins have. And we're so quick to blame, Derek Falvey or Thad Levine for whatever it is, because they're the guys in charge, or, the running joke, and Rocco's joked about this a ton, but pulling a pitcher too soon or whatever it is. But I mean, my goodness, the Twins made the playoffs last year. They won the division. They ended the losing streak in the playoffs. They're on pace for about a 90-91 win season this year. And if it wasn't for Cleveland playing out of their mind right now, everybody would feel great. Like, this is a good team with a good future. Like, there are guys down below that are going to be a big part of the major league organization. And I think when you're a major league club in what I guess people call a middle market, although I don't think the Twin Cities, in my opinion, is. I think it's better than a middle market. But when you are, you got to be able to do two things. You got to be able to draft well, get them to the major leagues before they're arbitration eligible so that you're paying them on, a lower pay scale. And then you can fill in with other guys, and that's where you spend your money. And that's how you make a roster for whatever it happens to be, 120 million, 130 million, 140, whatever it happens to be. That's how you have to do it. You're not the Dodgers. You're not the Yankees. You're not going to sign Ohtani. You're not going to sign Judge. That's just not the pool that you're going to wade in. And so I think when, fans of middle market teams, the Royals, Cleveland, the Twins, Detroit, when you're fans of those teams, you've got to understand there's a certain way you've got to construct your roster. And I think the Twins have done as good a job as any. I think the Royals have done a fantastic job. I know they've fallen off of late, but I've seen some of the talent they've had at AAA over the last couple of years. And I'm like, man, they've done an excellent job. Now, it doesn't always pan out at the big league level, but I think they've done a remarkable job. And everybody made fun at the free agent signings they had this offseason. And they've been very competitive for a team that was not very good.
Well, I do like, speaking of the Twins specifically, when Carlos Santana was off to the slow start in April, and he was telling everybody, guys, I never hit well in April. Let the weather warm up, and I'll be fine. Organizationally, Sean, that is one thing. Look, I'm like most fans, and I'll be honest, I'm more of an idiot behind a microphone these days. I used to be in locker rooms a lot. It's been over a decade since I have. With any regular appearances, I guess. I'll poke fun at Derek Falvey and Thad Levine when I can, but one thing that you can't really poke fun at them is they have had some misses. Every general manager is going to have misses, but they've also done a good job supplementing those misses by selling when it's time to sell and buying when it's time to buy. And I would rather buy and fail than not buy at all. And I applaud that. And then look at Simeon Woods Richardson, Austin Martin, Johan Duran. These guys came because you sold. So I think they need to get credit for that. I got one fun Saints thing for you, and then I want to do 5 filler questions with you to close this out. Is that okay?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, take this to Derek, take this to Sierra and you when you guys sit down for your meetings for everything that you guys do for the St. Paul Saints, the 3-headed monster that I know runs the St. Paul Saints. Derek Scherer, Sierra Bailey, Sean Aronson. Put this on your agenda, okay?
Okay.
Whenever the day comes for Caleb Thielbar and he is done with Major League Baseball, there is no reason for the St. Paul Saints not to retire his jersey at CHS Field. Well, let's just walk through the journey here, Sean. Pitched for the independent St. Paul Saints in 2011. Worked his way back to Major League Baseball. Pitched again for the independent St. Paul Saints in 2016. Worked his way back to Major League Baseball. In 2019, started with the Saints in AAA, made it back to Major League Baseball. He's also done rehab stints with the Saints. Sean, Caleb Thielbar is perhaps the one, the only, the reigning and undisputed Mr. St. Paul Saint.
Yeah, that's hard to argue that. I love the guy. Again, I remember from his days over at Midway Stadium. He's been a tremendous ambassador for the game of baseball, for the small market guy, the small city guy that got the opportunity and just worked his way up. I give a lot of credit to George Samus, our former manager with the St. Paul Saints, for being able to find a guy like Caleb Thielbar and giving him the opportunity. I don't disagree with you, Ross. I think it's a great idea. He epitomizes what the Saints stand for, what independent baseball stood for, what getting a second chance stood for. I like where your head is at. I have no problem with that. I think and I'm not saying it's a problem, but I think then what winds up happening is you start to get the cries for the Mark Hamburgers of the world, right? the Ole Sheldons of the world, and all of a sudden we become the Yankees, and we've got no more numbers to give anyone because everyone's retired. But I have no problem with that. We're creative. We're the Saints. We have no problem giving out number 104.
I was just going to say that. And then you are going to get Darryl Strawberry was there for 3 weeks or however long it was. Or how about JD Drew? No, I get it. And I'm glad you brought up George Samus, because one of the just all-time greats. I told you at one point, I just sent him a random email and he replied like within minutes and was just so gracious and kind. So I love that you brought George's name in there. No, but it's, and even like, Kevin Millar, a lot of people associate him with the St. Paul Saints, and they should. But Caleb Thielbar, to your point, is just everything that's great about independent baseball, because I would go to those St. Paul Saints games and I would always tell people, yes, I loved it for the atmosphere, Sean, but I also love the romanticism of what it was. You were watching independent baseball is really good baseball, especially some leagues more than others. And at that point, the American Association was a pretty darn good league. All right, let's do this. We'll do 5 filler questions in just moments, but I want to remind everybody about Beans Coffee Company, who's been powering this podcast for over 2 years now. I thank them kindly, and you can thank them as well by visiting coffeebybeans.com. Use that promo code SportsChat, and you'll save at checkout. They truly do have a blend or a variety for everybody, whether it's a light roast, medium roast, dark roast. It doesn't matter. It's all good, and it's all fantastic. And the guys are local out of Mankato. They support the same teams that we do. Promo code SportsChat at coffeebybeans.com. Again, promo code SportsChat. All right, Sean, you've done this before. I just lob you random questions. You give me a long or short answer. Doesn't really matter. Are you good?
I'm good. Let's go for it.
All right, here we go.
5 filler questions. Number 1.
Sean, do you miss Midway Stadium?
No.
I knew that was going to be your answer.
I'll give you a slightly longer answer. I get it for those people that grew up there and it meant the world to them because it's where their childhood was. I totally get where you're coming from, but no.
I actually will agree with you. There's parts that I do miss about it, but if you tell me my options are Midway Stadium or CHS Field, 101 out of 100 times it's CHS Field, and it's not even close.
Number 2.
Favorite place in Minnesota that's not CHS Field?
Oh, man. You're asking me like I actually do stuff.
I know. I know. You're pretty confined 7 months out of the year.
I really am. Man.
It could be any. I mean, you could literally tell me it's a month. Fine.
You know what? I really like Stillwater. If you go to downtown Stillwater and walk Main Street over there, if it wasn't so much further from the ballpark, I would love to live in Stillwater. I think it's a beautiful little city. I love not that I'm a big antique guy, but I love just walking into the antique stores and getting we talk about Midway nostalgia and getting nostalgic about some of the things you see. So I'd say Stillwater. I enjoy Stillwater.
That's a great call. And this time of year when the water comes down, great place to boat as well, obviously.
Number 3.
Favorite Minnesota team that's not the St. Paul Saints? Is there one that I know you're now officially one of us. You've been here for like 2.5 decades. You're gonna be calling Twins games here shortly. So favorite team that's not the Saints. There's got to be one that you can kind of claim.
I'll say this, and I've never shied away from my fandom. I don't think anyone should ever shy away from their fandom. I'm born and raised in Los Angeles. I'm a Lakers fan. I'm a Dodgers fan. I'm a Kings fan. But I never had a football team. So I have no issues rooting for the Vikings because I don't have a football team. I genuinely am happy to see other people happy when the Vikings do well.
I can't imagine how this state would react, first off, to any team winning a championship since it's been since 1991 on the men's side, unless you want to count Gopher hockey, which I do, but I understand most don't. I cannot imagine how the state would react when the Minnesota Vikings win a Super Bowl. I don't know, Sean, when it will be, but it will happen. I just might be another 60 years and I might not be around to see it, but it will happen. Law of averages. Question number
4.
I think you kind of already hinted to me that this next one might be tough. Favorite restaurant in the cities?
Oh, man. I don't know if I have a favorite restaurant in the cities. That's a great question. I don't go out to eat enough to be able to tell you. I'm a big fan of Mexican food. So here's what I would tell people.
Good choice.
Huge fan of Mexican food. And again, I'm spoiled. I grew up in Southern California. I grew up in Los Angeles. I mean, there are a million great Mexican restaurants. If people want to send me their idea of what the best Mexican restaurant is in the Twin Cities, I would happily take it. I've tried plenty. I've yet to find one where I'm like, that's the one, that's the spot. And so my one caveat, however, okay, because I believe you cannot be a Mexican restaurant unless you do this. If you do not give free refills on chips and salsa, I'm
Yes.
never returning to it's like charging for an extra soda or something. Like, I don't understand Mexican restaurants that charge you for the second basket of chips and salsa. That should be against the rule. I will never go back to your establishment if you do that.
My favorite place in town, Sean, I think we've talked about this. I don't know where it falls on your scale. There's probably 7 or 8 of them now, but a Teresa's Mexican restaurant, and they will give you chips until the cows come home. So that at least should help you in deciding if you want to check out a Teresa's Mexican restaurant. Okay, here we go.
Number 5.
Okay, so June 20th was the fateful day where Declan Goff, your protege, threw out the first pitch at the St. Paul Saints game. I think you saw it from the press box. How would you rate the first pitch? Sean, I've thrown out a first pitch. It was at Midway Stadium, and I can tell you, it wasn't nearly as good as Declan. So I'll tell him that his was better than mine. How would you rate his first pitch?
I will start with a caveat that I will never ever throw a first pitch at a baseball game ever.
You're kind of set up to fail.
No, I will never do it. I've had one opportunity at our ballpark when I did my 1,000th game, in 2016, and I turned it down. I said, you know what I want to do? I want to exchange line of cards. I think that's much cooler, and I got to do that. But for Declan, I'll say this: he got it there, and that's half the battle right there. Right, half the battle is getting it there. But he either played it exceptionally conservative or he's much like me and cannot throw a baseball. And I don't know which it is. If he played it conservatively, then I'm going to call him out on the carpet and say, you got to bring it next time. But again, half the battle is getting it there. He did not bounce it, and he did his job. And for that, I commend him. But, I would hope the next time he tries to burn one in there and actually try to get it there.
It definitely had some loft to it, and I forgot who was catching it, but did try and at least do a frame job for him to get it in the strike zone. But I bounced mine, so I'll be forever jealous of Declan. Mine did get to the dirt, but I did definitely bounce it. Sean, as always, this was a ton of fun. You absolutely do not ever have to make time for me, but you always go out of your way to do so. So I really appreciate it. So thanks a ton. We'll catch up soon, and I mean this with all sincerity. I am really looking forward to turning down the sound on my TV because I'm one of a few that can watch the Twins on TV. I will mute that, Sean, and I will listen to you when you're doing those White Sox and Giants games. Just from the bottom of my heart, congrats. I know how much it means to you, and it's a well-deserved honor, so congrats again.
Thanks, Ross. I appreciate it, and I will always make time for you. Thank you, my friend.
That is Sean Aronson, the voice of the St. Paul Saints. Again, do not forget you can hear him all season long, KFAN Plus 96.7 in the Twin Cities. And, of course, if you're listening here in the next day or two, you'll be able to hear him do some Twins baseball. What a cool honor and well-deserved for Sean. I am at the Ross Brendel on the X Machine. This does it for edition number 220 of the soon-to-be award-winning Minnesota Sports Chat presented by Beans Coffee Company. We'll talk again in this feed really soon. If you're watching on YouTube, please like, comment, and subscribe.
Thanks for listening to Minnesota Sports Chat, presented by Beans Coffee Company. Use the promo code SPORTSCHAT. That's one word, Sports Chat, to save at checkout. Follow Ross on X at the Ross Brendel. Like and subscribe to Minnesota Sports Chat wherever you get your podcasts. Rate and review kindly.